Welcome, children of God, loved and saved by Jesus. This is Pastor Paul Steinberg, and this is the Christ for Disciplers podcast. Please pass it on if you find this beneficial as we spend Monday through Friday together 10 minutes and we disciple ourselves so we can better disciple our children, or at least the children of God has put in our lives, in our classrooms, on our teams. This week we're taking a look at Paul on Mars Hill, or the Areopagus from Acts chapter 17, and here we are in the middle of the week. And I want to ask you a question. How good are you at apologetics? How good are you at apologetics? Maybe you don't even think about that. When I was a kid, see, if you're my age, I wouldn't even think about that. That was kind of said, well, that's a big fancy word where, we were more concerned about getting into God's word, and we weren't feeling the pressure of the non-Christian culture around us. Even though it was there, depending on where you lived, if you were like me, I kind of grew up and my family was all following Jesus, and I went to a church where they're following Jesus. My community, either people were following Jesus or they weren't like openly, defiantly not following Jesus. And from when I was a kid to now when my kids are young adults, it's really switched quite a bit, where the majority of people, the middle group, is no longer with the Christians. They're now thinking that Christianity is kind of silly. There's all kinds of crazy things out on the internet, all kinds of things that are just, ready to throw the Bible and Christianity under the bus. And so people hear all kinds of things and they don't even have a chance to double check. One of my good friends, Pastor James Hine, says things, and maybe he stole this from somebody else, but he said it in a memorable way. I just heard him, is that the point of apologetics is to get people to doubt their doubts of Christianity. Because often they've heard about Christianity, but here's why they say you can't follow. They have these different things that certainly can't be true. And all you want to do with your apologetics is get people to doubt that, to doubt their certainty that it's wrong. Just to show them maybe some of the things you heard, or maybe some of the premises that you have really aren't as real as you think they are. You want them to doubt their doubts. And that's kind of what Paul did when he was in Athens. He wasn't in a Christian culture. A lot of people will say where he was a lot more like, the 21st century, where big education, philosophy is the deal, and certainly not believing in the supernatural, not believing in the resurrection. That's kind of the crazy, silly part. You can have a lot of different theories about life and different ideas, and we love to talk about it. We're always putting stuff out, trying to win people to our side, but don't tell me about angels and demons and non-scientific stuff. We have science and we have philosophy, and you got to kind of believe in them both. And science is supposedly fact, and you kind of roll with whatever new research comes. But philosophy, that's up to debate, and you can come up with reasons for it. But yet, I think you find it's true that people in 2021 who try to live in the world of accepting science, 100% all science and only fact, naturalists, then also still like to dabble in philosophy, and they really don't fit together. They really don't. And you want to make sure to plant that in people's heads and have them realize that what they hold to be very true and one of their basic premise beliefs undermines what they're trying to also believe in their scientific beliefs. We're going to get to that. And I think we want to make sure to train our kids to think that way. And if you're like me, I kind of have to learn this way and think it through, because I never operated that way before. Not natural when I was a kid. I do it now as a pastor, as someone who works with the youngest generation. But we want our kids to be fully aware of it. So first of all, they're not attacked to begin to doubt the wonderful gospel of Jesus Christ, but also so they can help their friends and neighbors doubt the doubts they might have about Christianity. So listen to what the Apostle Paul said when he had a chance to speak in front of people with a non-biblical worldview. He said this. This is Acts chapter 17, beginning at verse 24. The God who made the world and everything in it is the Lord of heaven and earth, and does not live in temples built by human hands. And he is not served by human hands as if he needed anything. Rather, he himself gives everyone life and breath and everything else. From one man he made all the nations, that they should inhabit the whole earth. And he marked out their appointed times in history and boundaries of their lands. God did this so they would seek him and perhaps reach out for him and find him, though he is not far from any one of us. For in him we live and move and have our being, as some of your own poets have said. We are his offspring. So lots of good stuff in here. Paul starts with the speech, and he's not picking the most offensive things. He's not using the word Yahweh when he's talking about this. He's not trying to convert them to Jewish culture, right? And he makes something, he pulls in something that just doesn't jive, that they have all these temples. But if you're talking about spiritual part, they don't really live in temples. They don't need human hands. I mean, that's a logical thing. If God is the one who made everything, he doesn't need us to do all this stuff. That's not how it works. And so Paul is showing the inconsistency in their belief, and he says, but he wants something consistent. I can show you. It's the God who made every person, right? And had a plan, and he did all that. So he wants a relationship with you. He doesn't just want you to work for him. He doesn't want to reward you. He doesn't want to dominate you. He wants to have a relationship with you. He's not far from you. And then Paul goes on to quote from their own culture, their own poetry, and say even in your culture you recognize, even though you think you're so smart and logical, that we are God's offspring. You kind of know that. It's the natural knowledge of God is what we would call it. And for you and I, as we train our kids, we want to make sure that we use creation for what it's really for, all right? Not to blast people and call them stupid because they don't believe in the Bible and try to prove the Bible. That's not really the way to do it, but to be knowledgeable and get them to doubt their doubts of Christianity. So if someone says, well, of course the Bible isn't true because we have scientific fact about the theory of evolution, that it took billions of years. It's all happened that way. Well, there's a couple of things that are big deals that our kids need to know, and they need to be ready to say to others. Well, first of all, you can believe the Bible. It's literally true that God made the world in 6 days, just as he said. And then you can also say, but I believe he's such an amazing big God, he made it with the appearance of age. So in other words, you and I can both agree that the universe looks 13.8 billion years old. I have no problem with that whatsoever. Genesis 1 is literally true, but it looks like it's 13.8 billion years old. At least that's some of the best scientific stats. And I'm not a scientist, but I love to read. I've been reading a lot of Hugh Ross. That is, I don't necessarily agree with everything he says, but he points out, I mean, our God didn't make a cartoonish universe, and would you expect an amazing, ultimate God to do that? No, he made this universe in a way so it's Goldilocks. It's just right. It's just right. It's just hot enough, just cold enough. It's spinning, it's moving, it's slow. It's just the right rotation. We're at just the right time where we can see everything in the heavens. We're at just the right spot. Everything is just right. And God put this amazing backstory in. He made the world, but Adam and Eve weren't embryos when he made them, right? Everything had the appearance of age. Because the world the way it's interacting with one another, everything didn't start out as seeds, and everything didn't start out as baby animals. It wouldn't have worked. He started it already going. And so my amazing big God can start a world, and isn't it even more phenomenal that he would start it. And even the Bible talks about him stretching it out, kind of like this idea of this expanding universe that scientists see. If you look in the Hebrew, it apparently has some of that idea of God stretching out the universe. Trust me, atheists do not like the Big Bang Theory because it points to a beginning and a beginner. They don't like it. It doesn't prove God, but they'd rather have it be static state or something different. It was very distressing for them. But as we Christians, we could say, well, that kind of makes sense that God would make something that shows the beginning, and is it too unbelievable that God made everything in the middle of something? Another big thing you can do with your kids is they can talk to others, and you ask people, is racism wrong? And most people say, yeah, racism is wrong. And then you'll say, well, actually, creation actually agrees with that, right? That God, as Paul said, God made all people from every nation. Creation says we're all brothers and sisters. Atheism says that it's survival of the fittest. That if you can push somebody down and take their stuff, that's really how we pass on our genes. It doesn't give you any reason to love somebody weaker than you. So you can't really believe that, right? You need to, if you really believe that we're supposed to love the broken and the downtrodden, you really can't really get that from atheism. You need something different. You can't really hold those two, and we hope to plant those sort of things so people can doubt their doubts that they have in God. There's all kinds of things like that. And If you're a parent who hasn't checked out Apologetics, you need to take a look at it and check some of these out, because our God is the one who made this world so we would seek him and find his word and get to hear that Jesus Christ entered this creation to save this creation, because when he made it, his plan was to have us as his family, and his plan hasn't changed. In fact, he's completed his plan and will finish it up when this world ends, all because of the love and power of Jesus, who is the Word, who created everything. Went a little over today. Sorry for the extra seconds. A lot to say. Thanks for taking 600 seconds, maybe 640 seconds, so Christ doesn't take second in your life. The Lord bless you, and keep it. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord look on you with favor and give you peace. Amen.